Welcome to POSTCAST. Sean Grande, nice to see you. Keep up the good work. See you in Boston. That's the best right here. Turn around and wave to everybody. That's the best radio guy in the end. Sean Grande. I'd rather be the best broadcaster. One day I'll be as good as you. That is Sean Grande. That is Ron Boone.
Hello.
Pow. Jazz got muscled tonight.
They got just
they got beat up.
They got manhandled. They got Warriors all they wanted with their perimeter defense. They're not rated a high defensive team, but they gave the Golden State Warriors all they wanted on the perimeter.
So what happened? They just got. To me, it looked like we watched their skeleton. The Jazz know how to run their offense when they can get to their spots. They couldn't get to a single spot, single place they wanted to go.
They were soft, I thought.
So did Quinn, by the way. That's what Quinn said. He opened his press conference with, "We were soft and we didn't play hard."
And you remember, from the previous games, anytime the perimeter pressure defense, they always had problems with. And I thought that's what they did. I didn't think they handled it very well. Dante, he struggled tonight.
But, Coach Phil and Ron was on TV tonight, said there might not be a harder matchup. Avery Bradley and Marcus Smart might be the two most physically demanding defending guards of any combination in the NBA. Like, there's not going to be an easy minute as the point guard against Boston, and Dante clearly wasn't ready for that yet.
He definitely wasn't, because Bradley, Smart, both of those guys just flat out get after you. I was impressed with Smart, even though I was glad the Jazz didn't draft him, that we ended up getting Dante. But it's still, that perimeter defense, and fortunately enough, Trey responded here tonight. But the perimeter defense, just didn't affect Dante. I thought it affected the whole offense, because it put the Jazz on a short clock on a number of times. And anytime the Jazz get in this short clock, if the ball's not in Gordon's hands, then, nothing happens. They can't get anything out of it.
Might be oversimplifying this one a little bit with this next comment, but the numbers were telling tonight. And basically, when Gordon was on the floor, the Jazz were pretty good. And when Gordon was off the floor, the Jazz were awful. At one point in the night, I believe it finished that Gordon Hayward tonight was plus 13. So when Gordon was on the floor, the Jazz outscored the Celtics by 13, which means when he was off the floor, they were minus 22. He was only off the floor for 13 minutes.
Well, and the thing is, and I looked at the our stat sheet, our monitor down there, and the Jazz were losing ground without Gordon on the floor, and Gordon ended up playing 35 minutes, but it was 30 minutes. I looked at, and Gordon it only played 30 minutes, and I'm thinking, Gordon has to get back in this ballgame. Otherwise, they just Jazz have worked so hard at getting back in the ballgame, and the Celtics are just going to extend the lead.
I think they're trying to monitor his minutes. I think if Quinn's not careful, he'd play him 42 every night, and I think they just feel like for his development, because knowing Dennis Lindsey's background, no one said this to me, but he's very cognizant of workloads and effort level, and there's probably not a guy in the league carrying much more of a workload than Gordon Hayward is on this team. I think they're very cognizant of keeping him to 35 minutes a night.
Which is the right thing to do, and I agree with that, but I think now the problem you're going to have is when to play him and when not to play him. When should he be in the ball game? If I'm going to limit his minutes to 35 a game, now that's tough to do, though. It's very tough.
Right. But I think that's, you got to remember, we're developing, right? Like burying Gordon now. Look at all the injuries in this league. Burying Gordon now is not worth it.
Yeah.
And so it probably costs you a basketball game or two somewhere along the way. But in the long run, it's probably worth it. And I think, this last 20-game stretch has been interesting. The Jazz went 10-10. I had circled it on. It's kind of an area where they could play well. They did exactly that. But I think we have to kind of remind ourselves that we're still developing. Certain guys are getting minutes based on development. Quinn's probably, as we see him every now and then knee jerk it down. I think there's been a few flips around where he's like, no, I can't take that guy out. I think he, quite frankly, and tonight's probably a good reason why, after Ennis's opening 5 minutes, he probably would have liked to never play Ennis another minute tonight. And then Ennis turned around and had a half-decent night by the time the night was over. And so I think there's a lot of that's going on with the way this team is still being handled.
They pulled the trigger pretty fast on Cantor in that first quarter.
He might have been 2 minutes too late, too.
He really struggled there. But and I agree. You know, without Alec Burks, without Rodney Hood, you know, guys that could help you out there on the floor and could extend the minutes of a couple of players, that I can see your point.
Rudy Gobert had no impact on the game tonight. The Celtics shot 55% when he was in the game and 39% when he was out. The Jazz actually shot 46% when he was out and 40% when he was in. It was kind of the opposite of everything we've seen. How come?
Well, I was under the impression here tonight, David, if I can back this up before we get into that the Jazz, they started a 6'8" center and Bass. So I was thinking, okay, feed the post, play off the post, and you know, see what happened. Cantor and maybe Favors will have a pretty good night. But the pressure they put out on the perimeter, and they recover so quickly with their rotation that the Jazz just couldn't get anything going. So that I thought, now even though Rudy blocked a few shots, you know, if he's not scoring, then you've pointed out so many times that it's you know, he becomes a detriment out there on the floor. And defensively, he can help you, but the Jazz needed offense, and he just couldn't give it to him.
Any thought on why Rudy couldn't? Why Boston was able to score on Rudy?
Okay,
I guess what really
7 foot.
He was good, wasn't he?
And he was excellent. And I thought Rudy defended him pretty well on a couple of occasions, but I thought Zeller did a couple of nice things. He drove to the basket, and he was off rhythm shots. You know, he's driving to the basket, and instead of, if he's going to his left, instead of going off his right foot to shoot the left-handed shot, he went off his left foot before, and it's off rhythm, which means Rudy's timing was not even there. Rudy was stayed to the floor on both of those shots that he made there in that third period. So, but there's going to be nights like this, you know, where he's not going to be effective, and it's up to Coach Snyder to find his way.
All right, let's go to the questions from Philip Malone in Australia. Do you think there's a minimum game limit for the Dante Trey change? No, I actually think it's up to Dante. I think they'll leave this as it is unless they think it's negatively impacting Dante.
The question: do you think there's a
like we're doing this for 5 games or 10 games or something?
No. I think this is especially now with Alec Burks and Rodney Hood being out. I think this is what they want. They want Dante starting. From what Coach Snyder told us, Trey's the only one that he can bring off the bench as a threat to go for some big numbers offensively.
Trey had 18 tonight. His 7 of 20 is a little misleading. He was actually a lot better than that. He had 2 buzzer beaters late and then threw up some bombs. He did have no assists, though, tonight. Ryan, the Jazz are attempting to build a culture around passing the ball, but the Jazz are currently 19th in assist percentage, and they only had a little over 50% of their shots assisted. Why is the Jazz assist percentage so low with the coach emphasizing passing? Because they can't make shots.
Yeah. If you don't make shots,
that's all. I mean, it's not that complicated. It's because they don't make open looks, because Joe passes up open looks, because they don't have a shooting team. Like, they don't have shooters. 3-point shooters, 95% of all 3-point shots are assisted in this league. If you're going to have a high assist percentage, you got to make threes.
If you notice what happened in the third period, the Jazz had 4 assists in the first half. And I think at the end of the third quarter, I know it was 13. I think they ended up with 14.
And then finished 18 for the game.
After the third quarter. So you see what happened there in the fourth quarter. They reverted right back to what they were doing there in the second quarter.
Point guard switch seems to be working for Trey. Did Quinn move him in the second unit to give him leadership and scoring? Maybe he thinks Gordon takes some of the pressure off Dante. I think he definitely thinks that Joe and Dante and Gordon take pressure off Dante. I think he thinks that's a very, very helpful. He said that specifically in our coaches show today. I think that, you know, Trey's just maybe a little more free in this. Yeah. But Trey also got it going in the second half. His first half was not good. So, you know, and this game was lost in the first half.
And we got to give Boston some credit.
Yeah, absolutely.
They flat out got after it. You know, and again, they've only won 15 ball games. But if you look at the amount of points they average per game and the amount of points they give up a game, how many points is difference? Only 2 or 3 points. So that means they're in a lot of basketball games, regardless of the players that put out.
I got another little secret for you.
Okay.
Last 3 years, their record was better without Rajon Rondo than with Rajon
Yeah, I
Rondo.
can believe that. I mean, I've heard so many negative things about Rondo here in the last couple of days that I can understand. So now it's Mark Cuban's problem.
All right, that is our postcast tonight. Thanks for tuning in.